Alright, so we're going to do this again. I just recorded one verse Syphil, but it was strange and I don't think all that useful. So, in the beginning of the game, when it comes to opening strategy, of course it's going to be reflexive, but ideally I like to get 5 pieces into my 4th row, and I like to do it 3 by 2. I have no evidence or inclination it actually makes it better to do it 3 by 2, it's just a preference thing. So we'll see this instance a lot in that you have an orb spawn on either side's 4th row, and it has to, of course, be contested, in that he has to move here and I have to move here so nobody gets the orb. But it also allows for a possible trade or trap, in that as I'm going to slide this piece forward here, he's going to have to move this piece. Yeah, okay, so he did. What he's doing is he's defending the likelihood that I can force him to trade by moving this piece down, which leaves me with 2 here, him 1 there, and this orb remaining, which means he can either take that one or take the orb and sacrifice himself to keep me from getting the power. It's a minor thing, but in reality I could end up in his 4th row with a row power if he's not careful. So I'm proceeding to get my 5 into the 4th. I like to hold off getting players from my 2nd row into my 3rd row, because I'd like to see orb spawn like it did just right here, so I can get that orb and move it as close to the front as possible. Of course it's an orb spiral, which really doesn't help me. But again, we've got another trap situation here, which he'll likely respond to by moving this guy. No, but wait, there's more. He's got to multiply, forcing a trade and offering himself into my 5th, which is a problem because it ruins my trap, but in trades like that, if you're not moving a power piece forward, it's not all that useful to do, because when it comes down to the basic math, I can always get more troops in there faster than he can. Being that he's in my 4th, it's going to take him an extra move to get that guy up here to support him, then it's going to get me from what was there to challenge him. Though of course with an orb in play, it changes the math a bit, because, well, I'm not trading my switcheroo. Especially when I can slide that down. I guess this is important towards the use of a switcheroo, or having the bots effectively use it. One is gaining useful, like the move again switcheroo is incredibly dangerous, just like the move again center pole is incredibly dangerous, because it extends your range with that piece. Not exponentially, but almost so. So he's building up support there, which obviously is in his interest. As well, some time ago I wanted to move this wall column into this 2nd column here, but now I can do so under the guise of picking up another orb. Not that he has any... Not that my switcheroo is under any possible threat. As well, with him backing down, I can challenge the trade there, which he responded to very predictably. Doesn't actually help me, I'm just saying it was predictable that he would respond in turn that way. I like to wall off trades where I can overpower. I'm going to wall this column in just a moment, but first I'm going to stack powered orbs. I wanted to point out that that guy picked up an orb and now he's proceeding west, likely into the column of my switcheroo. I don't know, perhaps he thinks I'm distracted and he can hit... No? Okay. It's likely either a swap or a kami when you see a guy get into a column that is blocking an orb. Let me explain this a bit better so it doesn't sound so flustered. So he picked up an orb, it was 1 orb. Then he moved it west, and I thought he was going to try to sneak into my column to force a choice on my part, but it seems he's just camping the orb, and that he has a column piece here camping the orb, which is right next to my switcheroo, because he wants to kill that guy. Then he moves that piece over here, because he doesn't want to sacrifice it with what I believe to be either a kami or a swap. It could all be just an elaborate ruse, but it's doubtful. As well, I just picked up a recursive. It's I'm going to drop my column piece back so that when I do column up, this guy's closer. Obviously, I've got a lot of orbs, and what should be very clear to him as my opposition is that I'm plotting something, and that I'm ignoring all these orbs to put together what I'd like to be doing. It's just one of those little subtle hints that something's going on. There's no reason I should let all these orbs sit here. As well, he's just sort of challenged me, in that he could be bluffing and not actually have a column to try to scare me off the orbs, or keep one individual piece from getting too overpowered. I've got an invert column recursive, which I don't particularly care about, so we'll see what comes of it. Oh good, he dredged it, which is convenient because I have an invert. As well, I also have a relocate and a recursive, all of which gets pretty deadly pretty quickly. But for the extra spoonful of sugar, I'm going to pick up that acid column first. In the bot's calculation, I mean, a relocate recursive is a dice roll towards a pretty good run. But if you can see that you have a column piece in play, it's better to pick it up first and then... Oh, how fucking ideal was that? That doesn't get us all the way there, but... I could acid here and take out that piece. It doesn't seem worth it. I'm interested in this piece here, particularly. Still, because I feel he's trying to pin my switcheroo. As well, with the switcheroo move again, if I happen to actually have a power on the switcheroo piece, I could move him in here, take out the entire row, and Libertine here would be unable to stop me in any way from doing so. So what I'm going to do is start hunting row pieces with my switcheroo, which basically just means picking up orbs, because the two powers I can see, the network bridge I don't want to pick up because of the column, and the refurb column, which is of little consequence to me at the moment. Though I'm going to take the opportunity to test him to see if he'll take a trade, if in fact he had a power there, which he didn't, which is unfortunate, because, well, my move again was just sitting there for how many turns. I'm in a bit of a spot here with this jump-proof powered piece, because I've got nothing but a spyware row, which will only let me see how much he's going to hurt me, not actually stop him from hurting me. Alright, subtle bluff time. Pretend like that network bridge is a column. Hopefully he'll pick up that orb and I can convince him that it's, you know, dangerous to do so. So he did have a column power, it was a spyware, but still. Obviously he wants to take a look before moving his orb into play. Good on him for being clever. Well, that's a bit of a situation I can't do anything about. What I can do, block that orb, possibly trench this row. Huh. Hopefully that play will keep him out of my third. No, that play is going to allow him to scramble and possibly take my switcheroo. Yep, that hurt. That hurt quite a bit. So I'm going to trench his second. I love trenching the second or third rows, especially because you divide his forces. In that, not only did I trench these three pieces, but these three in his first row really can't move forward with the trench on. I don't know why he allowed me to do that. I think he assumed I had nothing. So we're in this weird middle game limbo part. I mean, we both just sort of traded some powerful pieces. It was a great trap by him, but I mean, he couldn't have predicted that was going to happen. Also, I mean, as soon as I picked up that trench column, I moved him into the row because there was an orb to basically camp on. Orb camping is a big thing, in that it's establishing a trap where you feel it's likely someone's going to place themselves because they want the orb. Fortunately, down in this trench here, there's at least a raised tile, so I can get them out eventually. I really would have loved to put down the hotspot, but that my switcheroo had, but unfortunately he outplayed me with his jump proof, scramble row, destroy radial. That helps. So this was, well, I wasn't talking about it earlier because this is a different game and I'm not going to show you that last one, but the math when it comes to invisibles can get tricky pretty quickly. I know he was here. He moved one square away, which means he can be here, here, or here. He likely backed away, but because there's no risk in doing so, I'm going to move my piece over. So it's more likely he is here than was here. Yeah, obviously he's trying to establish this trade, which means he's got his guy there, which actually gives me the opportunity to hopefully block in his invisible, use his own pieces against him, except I can't put pressure with that guy because that guy will take him. Yeah, he likely slid left. There's nothing I can really do about it, but I know he's here and he might be taking that orb. If he doesn't take that orb and chooses to continue left and possibly take this piece, I'll move up my left flank. No, he did take the orb. He was exactly where I thought he was, which is, you know, only so useful. And that would be the answer. I assume he had the invert column and didn't just luck into it, though it doesn't really matter. So what I'm trying to do is close the gap. Not unlike the tooltips recommend the buddy system, but if you can close the gap and keep the invisible from moving in too wide a radius or from escaping in that sense, it's obviously in your interest, because I know, well, he's either here or here. I don't recall if he moved again since inverting. Yeah, okay. Not exactly what I was afraid of, but it could be worse. Oh, he didn't realize he was making that trade because it was a bit of a dice roll, but he obviously wasn't fortunate in that. A lot of times in Quadradius, you're forced to use trades and traps to get anything done. And the difference between a trade and a trap, at the moment, I'm going to, in theory, trap this piece down here, in that he has nowhere to go, and he's going to get jumped if he doesn't flee that area somehow. He does have a power, but that's only so useful. Now, it is sort of a trade as well, though, because he could have used his climb tile to take that piece, and forced me to either choose between his climb tile and his powered piece, except obviously his powered piece can't get out, so he'd be trading in climb tile for surviving another two rounds, which doesn't really help him. So at the moment, he has possibly one power on his invisible, which is somewhere over here. It's really tough to track invisibles. I don't know how you're going to... Well, actually, with the way you've described to me the AI already, it seems like you have a possible way of doing so and figuring out possible moves, or where it could be in relation to its previous moves. That's all sorts of trouble for me. He just inverted that column, which gives his invisible an exit. In that he can, at any time he chooses, move over, either establish a trade or just jump on me invisible, and then walk up my leftmost column here. Which means if he does, I'm going to have to respond in some fashion. Likely by setting up what I'd like to refer to as a roadblock. In this instance, if he takes this piece and starts to move up my left column with his invisible, I can move this piece into that left column and force him to jump him at some point. So at least I will have it's called an early warning that the invisible's coming up my left flank. But in that same time, he's shifted these guys forward, which means he could be trying to sneak his invisible over to the right, again, in that very eventual sense. Because, as I currently believe, he's either there or there. I've really got the upper hand at the moment. You can tell he's just shifting around waiting for orbs. And I was right, he was there. With his invisible, that is. And not there. Though being right in that instance only helps so much. I'm gonna force him to move this guy. I don't know why he fired that piece. A bit of logic towards invisibles. When you pick up something that's not going to be particularly useful, like let's say like an orb spy row like that, don't fire it. Don't show me you picked up something useless. This is true for almost any instance. Not to say it's useless, but did he really need to know what that orb was at the moment? Like, I had this orb Spyro here, and I was going to hold on to him and eventually use him to fake a threat. Pretend that he has more than he does, and use it as a way to trap the invisible back in the second row area. It's a bit of a bluff, and it's no danger to me. Plus, I can pretend like I'm protecting this piece, which prevents that whole left flank thing. Now, as it stands, he's likely right about here. I doubt he moved down. And I just noticed Meet the Press is on, but I can catch it later. Because I don't need you listening to Meet the Press as I'm trying to talk to you. And you don't need me listening to Meet the Press as I'm trying to talk to you. He's making some really strange and unpredictable moves. I don't know why he would inhibit those two guys. It's not what I would contend a very efficient use of his powers. As well, I've got a coin flip chance that he's still in that column. I was talking smack about him, so I don't recall if he moved his invisible directly after inhibiting me. So what I'm going to do is leave this beneficiary here. And take advantage of the trap. Hopefully he will show himself again, because I'm not going to Benny and then fire when I'm not certain. So at the moment my main focus is to figure out and solve that invisible problem. In that I don't need him floating around with an invisible piece, because, well, it'll either stretch the game out or generally cause me trouble. So that's my main focus currently. The likelihood of actually doing so in the short term is kind of low, in that there's no orbs for him to show himself with, that kind of thing. And he's basically just opened up the entire board for his invisible, in that he could be here or here. I'm interested in why he made that trade. I don't think he actually wanted the networked piece. I think he's trying to open up a pathway to get his invisible out. Which, you know, is a good play. I don't think he's anywhere near getting that done yet, though. I was thinking about firing this orb spy row, but I think I'm gonna fake it first. Basically just highlight the power bluff, which is even more convenient now that he moved that piece into that row. To pretend like I was thinking about, you know, destroying that piece with it, even though obviously it can't. Okay, so he's obviously not in that column, as I thought he was. So he's either here or in one of these. Little insult to injury. Fire the orb spy row. Tell him he had nothing to be afraid of this entire time. Which is useful, because if you show yourself to be a bluffer, then you can bluff more effectively. Especially when you burn somebody with it like that. Assuming that he was actually afraid of that piece, and, I mean, shows some insight. Not unlike the old insult, you know, someone's too stupid to insult. You can also find players that aren't bright enough to bluff. Oh, wow. He waited on that forever. It's actually an interesting point in that reserving acids to take out hotspots, but I guess he just got tired of waiting on doing it and decided to proceed for what is basically a nothing piece that he got out of it. I think he just wanted to close off the hotspot for some reason. Possibly because I put myself down in a hole here. I don't know if you currently have the bots evaluating the value of a piece when it comes to things like swaps and commies, but I'd like to point out that I am much more interested in commieing this dude now that he's tripwired. Especially if there's anything even resembling a threat to him. That's not actually a threat. He's unpowered and just sitting there, and he's actually trying to... It seemed like he was trying to take my piece even though he was well below. No, it was... I didn't mention it, but I'm in an instance here where I just picked up a move diagonal and already had the recursive and spyware. Hopefully... Nope, never mind. I was going to say I was going to sit on it for a moment, because I was going to hope he was going to use his invisible to take that. But obviously he didn't. And what I'm going to do... You'd mentioned the bots had something towards the most efficient recursive pathing. I don't know if you take into effect powers. But I'm going to fire the pilfer here to see if he was in range. Assuming he had any powers, which is up in the air. Oh, he did. He had to move again and I just took it from him. As well, I know he's in my radial now, which helps because I will moat his ass. I'm in a weird instance here where I can take a guess with the recursive, or I can move again and basically guarantee that I'll get him. I'm going to do the move again. I would have been right on my guess, though, because that's where I thought he was. And this game is now basically over. That really ended it for him. He's going to pick up that orb. But in doing so, he's going to jump down in the hole with me. No, he's going to take the orb in the back row. Likely because he can see they're worthless. I completely forgot that guy had to move again, and or that move again's last between turns. So I was just sitting there when I didn't have to. This is basically over now. In theory, I should be doing everything in my power to put pressure on him. As in, prevent him from getting orbs and or lessen the space he has to move around in. Fortunately, he seems to just be giving up, so I don't have to worry about doing that, in that he just jumped down in that hole for me. Or he was trying to bankrupt as efficiently as possible, which is odd. You know, good on him for fighting it out. I do the same thing. Nope, never mind. He's given up. 200 moves even. I hope some part of this was useful. If not, let me know. Be well, man.